Welcome to episode 11 of the Inspired Conversations with Coaches podcast, where I share interviews with heart centered coaches to inspire you to unlock your true self so that you can have a truly wonderful life. In this episode, we're discussing living a life of abundance, and my guest is Karen Revell. Now, the wonderful Karen, she helps coaches, therapists, soul led service providers to break through their money blocks, own their true value, and get their gifts out into the world so they can make their unique difference in a way that feels aligned and authentic to them. So this was the perfect person to have this conversation with around living a life of abundance, and Karen shares some amazing insights into this. It's a wonderful conversation with my beautiful friend Karen. So let's head over to the conversation now. Hey, so hi Karen.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you on here, obviously. And we've already said off air we've got to be careful how long we talk for. But
Yeah.
I think this one we really about the subject here about living a life of abundance is it's going to be quite a job. I imagine we'll go off at some sort of tangents here and there.
Mm.
But I'll try and keep on track, you back on track and me on track as
Yeah. Yeah.
much as possible. But I suppose I'll tell you where I really want to start. I always
Mm.
like to with these podcasts about obviously coming to bringing you into this. We've done the introduction already, obviously, through this, but but how do you define the what is living a life of abundance, and also particularly you being sort of kind of a lot of money mindset stuff as
Mm.
well. What does that mean just beyond just financial wealth, for example?
Yeah.
A lot of people
Yeah.
associate living in abundance of financial.
Yeah. I mean, I always think, like the terms abundance, wealth, prosperity, sometimes some people, they're just totally interchangeable, whereas
Mm,
others have specific, meanings for those. Um, I mean, even for me, even wealth means more than just money. But for just some people, that just means purely, financial wealth. But
yeah.
um, I think for me, abundance is um, it's living or living an abundant life is living a life kind of true to you, and it's about being able to do the things that you want to do, which
Mm,
is where money comes in, because obviously in the world we live in, money is the currency we use to exchange value. Um, so it's being able to do what you want to be able to do. But I think also be who you want to be as well. And um it's yeah, it's just living a life really that's true to you. And that is different for all of us, and it's like what's important to one person is different to another. And it isn't just about money, or that, like I just said, money is a really important factor in that. But it's never about the money. It's about what does the money allow you to be and do and have. And that's the abundant life. It's like, who are you being, what are you doing, what you having, what you experiencing in this life. So to me, yeah, that's what an abundant life is. It's being able to do all the things that you want to do and be the person you want to be. And yeah, like I say, be true to yourself, really, which
I
isn't
suppose
easy.
no, and I suppose that's where you have because there are a lot of examples of people that are incredibly wealthy, but also incredibly unhappy, uh,
Mm,
and people
yeah,
that get to
yeah,
wealth, but then self-destructing or in some way.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, even myself, to a certain extent, when I was in my corporate job, I did you know, climb that corporate ladder. I was very career focused and climbed that corporate ladder and earning really good money, but working like ridiculous hours. And it puts a lot of stress on your health, on your relationship, and you get to a point where you go like, well, is this really what success is? And um, it's like, yeah, I've got all this money. I've got no time or energy to spend it, or, apart from my holidays sort of thing. So it's like, and I think that for me was like the wake up call to kind of leave my job actually, because it's like, well, do I really want to carry on like that? Um, and I think that's, for a lot of people who have successful careers, some people will carry on for a long time.
Yeah.
I know my someone who worked with my husband was off ill, like really stressed, lots of problems in their job, and he kept saying to him, "Well, just retire. You've got plenty of money. You can do it." No, no, no. It's almost like they get in that trap of like, oh no, we've got to stay in our career until we retire sort of thing. And then eventually he did, and he loved it, and he was doing all the things that he wanted to do, and he was mentoring, he did rowing on the river, and he was mentoring others to do that, and he loved it, and it's like, oh, I wish I'd done it earlier. And it's like money gives you the ability to do those sort of things, um and have that more meaningful life, and like I say, that might be helping others, or it might be going off traveling around the world, or it might just be staying at home with your family, but it's whatever is meaningful to you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I get that. So
And
what?
like you say, just having money isn't the answer. That it's never about the money, it's about what the money allows you to have or do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And who, yes, like you said about who you're being, and so it's
Yeah.
interesting that, and particularly kind of obviously the industry, which, and obviously these podcasts will attract a lot of coaches because of my audience and even
Yeah.
into the it, right? But the abundance and particularly abundant mindset is talked about a lot, if you like, within the industry,
Mm.
stuff like that. But I always get a feeling that so many people actually struggle to embrace it fully.
Yeah. I
And
think yeah, go on,
yeah,
sorry.
no, it's because you just kind of go, well, why do you think that is that so many people
Well,
coaching and service provider space
yeah.
struggle to embrace an abundant mindset?
Well, there's a number of things. So, um, I mean, our beliefs, we are conditioned so much, like so much, um, from a generational perspective, cultural perspective, societal perspective. Um, I think personally, the Protestant work ethic has a lot to do with this, especially in the West. Back in the day, where there was this religious thing of um, you worked hard in this lifetime to get your rewards in heaven. That was kind of like the philosophy, if you like. And so it's been ingrained in us, whether or not you're religious, but it's been ingrained in our sort of, especially like I say, Western culture, that you need
Yeah,
to work really hard to earn, to be deserving of
yeah,
your rewards. Um, but it's not, and if you are, religious or spiritual in some way, it's not spiritual to
yeah,
want all that wealth now. You're doing it for rewards later. Now, I mean, again, in the circles that we're in, a lot of people have shifted that view, whether they're religious or not, but it's like, no, we can have
mm,
heaven on earth now, if you like. Um, and I strongly believe that it's one of my founding sort of underlying philosophy is that, you know, I think at the highest level, each of us are here to share our gifts with the world and be abundantly rewarded for it. That is, to me, that's your purpose. But everyone has their own unique gifts and talents. But, why, like, surely we should all be here doing what we love, what we're really good at. And money flows to where there's value always. And that's where your value lies, in doing the stuff that you're naturally good at. So therefore money should come to you. But we resist it because of all these beliefs that we hold on to, often subconsciously, because like I say, they're at a societal level or a generational level that, um, and there's a lot around worthiness. Again, I'm always saying wealth and worthiness go hand in hand. And that's not because you're not worthy, because you are, but it's like people, again, it's like I don't deserve this on some level unless I've worked really hard or I've proved myself or, and I think this is where, like you say, a lot in the service-based industries, the caring professions, it comes back to that, no, I've got to give now, I've got to be helpful now, and I'll get my rewards later. I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving of having those rewards now. Even if consciously you think you
Yeah.
are, on a subconscious
But then
level.
they've
And
got some
and
other
these are the things.
they've got some other beliefs around money's greed and money's bad as well. That
Yes, absolutely. And like I say, you might not actually be aware of these, but
mm,
often when you start digging, I mean, I always dig with people, it's like, what did your parents talk, if there was ever a talk about money, what did they say? You know, I mean, I remember my dad always saying, you know, the filthy rich. That was, I come from a very working class background, and it was very like, oh, the filthy rich, or or like, my mum was always like, well, what do you think? Money grows on trees, and it's like, it's always that belief that money's always hard to come by, and and you've got to be really careful. And I've had clients who say, oh, people like us don't have that, and and it depends, like I say, what on your background. I've had people who, like from perhaps an Asian or a Chinese background, where the culture was very much about, it's all about the family first, and you carry on with whatever the family tradition is, and it's like you have to work really hard,
mm,
but the whole family's in it together, sort of thing. And that, whether you've got a shop or some sort of business or whatever, but it's like,
yeah.
and so different cultures will influence as well. And we're influenced at such a young age.
Mm,
And then we carry that through into adulthood and we don't even realize it. So, and I think is that really weird one in that, like I say, it is the currency that we use to exchange value, but you know, realistically, it's just well, I was going to say bits of paper and bits of metal, but in this day and age, it's just it's
It's
just
pixels on a screen.
numbers passing around.
It's just
Yeah,
pixels on a screen nowadays. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like it's nothing in itself,
Mm,
but it's all the meaning that we attach to it.
yeah.
And but I do believe that one of the biggest blocks to money, if you like, is this whole thing about being worthy and being deserving.
Mm,
And so some people can bring money in quite easily, but something always happens, that like, an unexpected bill, or something happens that it's gone again,
yeah.
or it can be really hard to bring the money in the
Mm,
first place.
mm,
um and it's not, especially certainly in business, it's not necessarily about the strategy, it's about what's going on in the inside, you
yeah.
know
Yeah.
from everything.
My own world, it's funny enough, my own belief was money was is easy to attract,
Mm,
easy to go and get, particularly obviously from a strategic point of view and
yeah,
from building businesses I have done in the past. It was easy to create money, and but then turnover and businesses and stuff like that when I was doing other projects. But in my personal life, that it wasn't until I've done some coaching, obviously around this, where there was a block in it. My belief was that if you had money, you turned into an arsehole
yeah,
because of all the people that I knew
mm,
around me, family and friends and
yeah,
family that had come into wealth, if you like, or come into wealth were then arseholes, and
yeah.
the coach they were always actually arseholes. It made them more of an arsehole, and
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there was a real switch for me around, around actually no, I will, it will just accentuate the person I am accentuating rather than
Absolutely,
turn me into an
absolutely.
arsehole. And
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's it, like, if you're someone who, like you were saying, who naturally is helpful and gives their time and their energy to other people, then if you've got a lot more money,
Mm.
And I'm not saying like you'll give all your money away, but like, you've got the capacity to help others financially as well. So it's like, yeah, it just accentuates more of your personality and your how you are naturally. But it's also interesting that that makes me think as well, is like, so I was always good with money,
Mm.
right? And this is quite interesting because like my family, like I said, I come from a very working class background, grew up in a council house. We weren't really poor, but money was tight all the time, and my parents had to work really hard to get the money and everything. And but I always remember when I started a Saturday job, you
Mm.
know, I opened, well, back then it was a building society.
The personal
Um,
account or whatever it was.
Yeah, an account and put half
Yeah.
my money away in there straight away. Now, I don't know where I got that from because my parents never had any savings or anything. So
Mm.
it's just like, but something within me was like, okay, well, I've had nothing before. So if I put half of this away, like having half of what I've just earned is like, it's good.
Mm.
And that kind of set me off, you know, saving straight away.
Mm.
Now, and I, so just very briefly, yeah, my background, I've always, um, I've never had a lot of, well, I've never had credit, that I couldn't pay off straight away. Um, and we paid off our mortgage in sort of half the tight term that it was, and that's so. But we would always save up first and then do it. So, all of these things about choices in life. So I'm not saying everyone's got the ability to do that, but that was my path. But um, but I I admittedly did this, was kind of very looking down on other people who are bad with money and just thinking like, oh, well, they haven't got their priorities right, or that, they've just not learned how to manage money and whatever. Um, and it wasn't until I actually came across this concept of having a money personality
Mm.
that I realized that people behave differently around money, and actually they're meant to. And we're not all supposed to be like I was, a natural saver. Um, this comes back to this idea of having an abundant life of like, so what you spend your money on, I mean, again, in the coaching world, we all understand the concept of values and like what's important to us, but it's it is your values, but it's also like that is actually related to your personality type around money as well. So you have to behave in a certain way around money as well. And that's being true to you and living that abundant life. And so it was only once I started studying the psychology around that I realized that, it's not just about, prioritizing what you
Mm.
spend your money on. Um, you have to, again, I could just come back, you have to be true to yourself about, where the priorities are,
Yeah.
or what the priorities are for you.
I think for me, I used to it was great actually back, sort of like when we first get your first job. Mine was a Saturday and Sunday morning cleaning job, the pub, just sweeping up and cleaning. But
Yeah,
um, it made it back in, tell me age a little bit, but early 80s, it was
yeah. So
£8 on the weekend was a lot of money, and
yeah,
but is it to mine? It's always been it's interesting about I've always well, I suppose I've understood. I don't know where the economics world and stuff like that. Always been interested in that sort of stuff. Where I've never had the opinion like the world is short money. It's like
mm,
living in sort of kind of oh, the banks haven't got no money or whatever like that. There's
that,
always the
yeah,
abundance
yeah,
of money is far in excess of anyone in the world. And how many ever
yes,
people are. But my always kind of feeling was a little bit. It was that attracting it was or getting it was relatively easy if you're prepared to go and do something like take some action or go and do some work, whatever. So I was
mm,
obviously well, I would spend it because I could easily attract it.
yeah,
And as I found out later on that I didn't want to keep it and save it up because although I was really good at saving, if I wanted something and it was like, well, it's going to take 4 weeks to save it, I would even when I was in my like early young 20s and stuff like that, I'd go, I'm not going out for all month because I want to spend all my money
Yeah.
on this one thing, and
Yeah.
it was good like that. But it was always there was always that fear of me first, like which I found out was the saving it and having then that wealth, if you like, of your
Yeah.
account, then would be, turn me into a bad person, if you like,
Yeah.
because around me. But it's interesting.
And
Just
it's really true because we have to understand as well, is like at that subconscious level, your body, um, like we can have fears about this. And as you know, like whenever you go into a fear state, you go into that sort of fight flight state, your body releases certain chemicals, your um, your whole nervous system is affected by it. So if you've got a belief like that running, I mean, a typical one, I don't know, is my brother actually, and because he lived out in Spain, saw a lot of people in Marbella, a lot of money,
mm,
but lots of money, and know that not everyone's going to get shot. But at a subconscious level, your body will go into this response, this fight or flight response, every time you start getting accumulating money because it's going, no, that's really dangerous. You're going to die.
mm,
Um, and that's the issue. It's like it is that deep rooted level of understanding what is holding us back because like I say, we're all here to have a life of abundance. The only thing that's getting in our way is what's going on inside of us. So we do need to do the work on the inside to allow that to clear all of that.
yeah. I suppose there's also you got to be thinking there talking about that. We use the it's interesting that we use the word abundance, if you like, quite flippantly with but for different people, there's different levels of abundance.
Mm,
It says
yeah.
the I know from my own personal thing, but if you're stage when pretty much lost everything and the house, everything like
Mm,
that, the cars, everything, and uh, going back to the days when I had two young boys and a cat
yeah.
out of the way, and I had £40 to do the weekly shopping on, and it's like
Mm,
it was it was an interesting old night that I used to go. I remember I used to go to which where there was a Tesco's, a Sainsbury's, a Farm Foods, a Pound Shop, so
mm,
literally did the shopping all throughout all four to get the cheapest whatever of that, and the thing.
yeah.
But because of that is that now when we obviously budget what we spend each month, it feels like because I've had that scenario. So so
Yeah.
there's a I have a real level of gratitude, even if my shopping only comes to
Yeah.
a pound or whatever. I have a level of gratitude that I've been able to like when and Liz and we go, can we get that this month? Can
Yeah.
you pick is it all right to get that? And I'll just say, yeah, put it in, and it's like so it is again that level of people's what they perceive abundance is, I suppose, at different levels can
Yeah.
important, can't
Yeah, and as we grow, and coming back to like financial world, as we grow, it's like anything. You start going outside your comfort zone. Like say, your body's going to go into a bit of a response about that. But we have to kind of grow through that level, and then we get to the next level, and then that's going to scare us as well. So it's like this constant work to do that. But also, yeah, coming back to the whole idea that abundance isn't just about money. To me, I mean, in a way, I mean, I do call it wealth, but I call it soul aligned wealth. But it's like, to me, it's like that living that rich life. And in a situation like you just described, it's like you can still find the richness in life through that because you might not have a lot of money, but you can have really good relationships, and like you say, you can appreciate, you have that gratitude. So, I mean, I've got these 5 pillars of aligned wealth, and it's like one of them is like connection, and that could be connection to others, but it could be just that connection into, your higher self, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. Um, and being grateful for everything that's around you, um, I think most people, I mean, for me personally, if you go out for a walk in nature,
Mm.
you know, especially on your own, you get a day and, the weather's nice and whatever, and you go out there and you just like, there's something about connecting with nature that you kind of feel in awe of life, and you can easily step into that part of, being really grateful. And I just think like when we look at nature, it really has a great lesson for us around abundance because it's not like everything's there all the time. If you think of a tree, like right as we're doing this, it's autumn. So like the trees are shedding all their leaves, but they're not dying, they're just going into that,
Regeneration, yeah.
these rhythms of life and of nature, and I think sometimes we get like, oh, if money goes down or whatever, it's like really
Yeah.
frightening and all that. But everything, industries go through peaks
Mm.
and troughs. Everything does. We live in sort of this universal flow of energy of life,
Mm.
and it's a natural part of life. And I think um, nature can teach us a lot that, we're going through these cycles, but it's going to come round again, it's going to come back to us.
Mm.
So, and I mean, I wasn't like this. I was brought up as a complete atheist, so wasn't religious or spiritual in any way. But, I think many of us on that personal development path end up, connecting in a more sort of spiritual or soulful level. And I've certainly over the last few years have got very much into where sort of science and like quantum physics
Yeah.
kind of meets spirituality and understanding a lot of that, um, what people would call religion or God or whatever, and understanding it more from a science point of view and an energetic point of view, and just like I say, understanding that everything does flow all the time. We are all energy, and money is energy. But it's our projection of what we're thinking and feeling out into the world is always reflected back to us. So if we've got this constant fear that money's tight and
Mm.
it's hard to come by, or if I get it, I'm going to lose it all again. Well, that is what's going to happen because that's my belief. It's like
What?
it's
Yeah.
reflected back to us. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what are the bear in mind you work a lot of people with their money blocks and stuff like that,
Mm.
money mindset. What are the sort of most common money blocks that prevent individuals from living abundantly?
Um, hmm. Okay. Well, I'll come back to this whole one of well, let me just go back first. I would say there's money blocks like the thoughts and stories that
Mhm.
we tell ourselves, and then there's the emotions and feelings that we have, and they can stem from different things. So, like we said, our thoughts can come from parents, grandparents, society, culture, whatever, religion. Um, Feelings can come from experiences that have happened, whether you're young or older. When you're young, you might have heard your parents arguing over money, and that might have affected you in some way.
Yeah.
You might have had to escape, a country war, or one of your parents had to escape a abusive relationship, and then after that, money was always tight or something. But there's lots of things. So they can be like beliefs, and there's also emotional trauma, if you like, that we can carry. And so it does depend on people, but I think, like I say, this whole thing about in terms of thoughts, definitely, money, like you said, money is going to make me a bad person. I'm going to be judged. I'm going to, money's the root of all evil. It's dangerous to be rich. Those sort of things are very common. There is that kind of put fear into us that we're going to be this horrible person. We're going to be outcast. We're going to be judged, and we're going to be you know, yeah, kicked
Yeah, I
out.
suppose
They're
yeah,
not going to be
fear
liked.
of judgment's quite.
Judgment. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is huge, huge. And that's actually quite a basic survival thing as well, because, if you think back in the day of cavemen, if we weren't, or tribes and that, if you were rejected by your tribe, you were dead. You're not going to survive, because we need the tribe to be able to live and to survive all in it together. So that fear of judgment is huge on your nervous system, um, or being outcast, I would say. And then there is, like I say, the emotional stuff that can happen as well, which also creates that sort of trauma. And depending if, like I say, if an abuse of some sort, whether that's physical or mental, emotional, um, does leave its emotional scars, and that is, to me, is the strongest ones. There are, I'm not worthy and I'm not deserving, and that comes up time and time again. And you may not have anything like a trauma like that, a big one, but like I say, just seeing your parents argue over money, and when you're really little, and for some reason it might be you take the blame for that, and that you're carrying that with you, and it's like, oh, then after that I don't deserve love, or I was an awful child, or whatever you might believe on a subconscious level. You don't realize you're carrying that. So yeah, I do. And that's why I say wealth and worthiness go hand in hand, because if you don't believe you're worthy or deserving, money's either not going to flow to you or not going to stay with you. So to me, that is a very, very strong one.
Yeah. How do your clients, are they aware they're not worthy, or does that come up before you start
Some
working?
are, some are. I mean, most people will know that there's something there
Yes.
that's blocking money, and that they don't have a great relationship with money. Normally because, the money's, like I say, it's not either flowing
Yeah.
or it's coming in and going out again. Um, but normally, like I say, a lot of this is unconscious. So when you start digging around, there is normally something that comes up to the surface that they didn't realize.
Yeah.
Um, and like you say, with a lot of the techniques today, we can get to those really quickly. We don't, it's not like you have to be years in therapy to try and find these things these days,
Yeah.
and clear them out. So, but yeah, I would say that the whole thing about not being deserving, not being worthy, and any fears of
Mm.
rejection and humiliation or anything like that, that's going to be that sense of abandonment, are the strong ones. Yeah.
Interesting. Bit at the near the start, it talks about and I was conscious we didn't go off a tangent straight away to
Mm,
that, but you talked about knowing our values, knowing
yeah.
purpose of that. So with Ben and I were talking about living a life of abundance.
Mm.
How does recognizing, owning your own truth, your one's true self, contribute to living that life of abundance?
Well, because, like I say, if you're having, oh, I suppose, and to me, an abundant life, or a rich, wealthy life,
Mm.
I say not financially, let's just call it a rich life, an abundant life, is something that is meaningful and fulfilling to you.
Mm.
So yeah, if you've got your coaching hat on and you understand about values, that is what's going to give you that feeling, that sense of meaning and fulfillment. I mean, a great example would be, and I do this a lot with my clients actually. There's like, you know, if you do if you are a coach and you do a values exercise with a client,
Mm.
I mean, one of the common things is like family. And saying, like, a lot of people who've got, especially if you've got your own children, that feel like, oh, this should be the most important thing in my life.
Mm.
Well, it's not for everyone, and it's not, even if you've got children, it's not necessarily the most important thing in your life. You might have something else, like you want to make an impact in the world, or you want to,
Mm.
help others, or you, um, I don't know, whatever it is, maybe you're quite adventurous and you want to travel and whatever. And it's like if you're making choices in life around your values, then you're being true to yourself. And then when it comes to financially supporting that, it's like, if you know, again, my background, I mean, I haven't got children. And I deliberately chose not to have them because to me, my career was important to me. Um, and I do love to travel. So travel was important to me. I
Yeah,
would spend a
I
lot of
can
money.
vouch. It's more difficult.
Yeah. But I would spend a lot of money on like holidays and travel. I spend my time and my money on travel because I want to explore the world and see the world. But I wouldn't I mean, even in my career, I mean, I used to wear suits all the time, but I didn't, I always remember um, when I first started as a management consultant, as like there was another woman there, and she always wore these black trouser suits, and I
Mm.
could see they were labelled, like whistles or whatever, and I was like, I mean, Marks and Spencer or back in the day Next or Dorothy Perkin and that. And it's like I could probably get 5 suits for the price of her one, and I would wear all different colours and different styles and skirts and trousers, whatever, all these different suits. And she'd always say to me, "Oh, Karen, you're always wearing all these different suits." And I'm like, yeah, because to me, I'm not like the
Mm.
style and the quality of those clothes aren't important to me enough to spend like £500-600 on one suit. Whereas it was for her. It was well, I don't know whether it was status or whether it was quality, she liked the feel or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But for me, that's not important. And it still isn't. Today I won't go and spend a load of money on like really expensive clothes.
Mm.
To me, I don't understand why people want to wear someone else's name on their t-shirt or whatever. Some people do because it's important to them. So it's like if you're spending your money on things in alignment with your values and what's important to you, then it's money well spent. But
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
spending money on things like, I don't know, like a fancy car,
Mm.
but actually you don't really enjoy driving or you don't hardly drive, then what's the point? It's a waste of money. So it's like it's aligning your spending or how you utilize your money with what's important to you.
Mm.
And I think when people align that, then um, it again, it becomes more meaningful to you because your money, you don't feel like you're wasting money.
Yeah, yeah. I think also the perception of yourself of you from other people as well changes as well like that. I've always say that people that have got true wealth and that are living a life of abundance, you wouldn't know by being around them. I think that actually the amount of wealth they've got sometimes
Yeah, sometimes, and again, this will come
because
back to your money
they're not like
personality. Yeah,
they've just got a black t-shirt on. They've not got like a
yeah,
name to
yeah,
because they're more bothered about being comfortable and not bothered about
exactly.
one of the things.
Yeah.
And they're nice to be around or whatever because they're living in that full abundance of everything, and they've got,
Mm,
it's with my golf network, of people from people in there that got a lot of wealth, but
mm,
you don't, you don't have that judgment, that perception of now, oh, they're just a rich,
yeah.
but because they don't,
Yeah. And I think, again, that will come back slightly to your money personality because some people, their self-image is important. So to have more money, you're going to spend more on that image. Other people have been surrounded by nice, beautiful things. So
Mm,
having a nice home and having all the, all perfect inside and that is important to certain personalities. So therefore, if that is true to you and your personality, then yes, spend your money on those things. But if it's not, like I say, I'm not, I'll still buy cheap clothes and that. And it's what's important to you. I mean, even my traveling, I'll travel, but I won't stay in like 5-star hotels.
Mm.
because quite often they're like these big chain hotels and you could be anywhere in the world. Whereas I like, and not really know, whereas I like to experience a bit more of where I am. So,
Yeah.
but to other people, I've had this discussion with my sister-in-law. It's like for her, it's like, no, I want to know that somewhere I'm going is at a certain standard. She wants it to be the same everywhere she goes in the world. Whereas to me, that's not part of the experience. So again, it comes back to what's important to you and then spending your money on that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So I try I've got this I've got a bit of this I've got this belief of that, and I'm not sure if we've talked about this because we have obviously talked about a lot
Yeah.
of work together for quite a long time. And but the I always believe that if I give my gifts with love,
Mm.
I'll be financially blessed.
Hmm.
Not from a religious point of view, and I'm open to receiving that in any way, shape, or form. So that's the big one as well. I will.
Yeah.
I will. I think you've talked about this before to me, obviously in our conversation around, why would I do that? And obviously people are like, I'll give my gifts, I'll give my time and ever because I know
Mm.
the worth might not the financial, if you like, rewards might not come from that person, but it will come from
Person,
somewhere else.
someone else. Yeah.
Right. Because I'm open to receiving it from
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form. That's the kind of the big part of it. But there is a little bit of, what advice would you particularly give to someone who struggles with undervaluing their skills or their contributions, if you like.
Mm.
And so, because I think it's connected with worthiness where they're, and not necessarily about charging too little to, because I think there's a little bit, I'm a little bit of I don't agree with that thing about you should, if you, if you feel, if people that go, you see this a lot in our industry, or people just say, oh, if you feel, worried, you should be charging more so you feel more valued. But then they can't sell that thing at all because of their all the other
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff that we talked about. But
Well, it comes a lot down to, and we were talking about this a little bit before, we jumped onto this, is about um like vibration frequency and of the universe. And I say whether you come from a scientific point of view or a spiritual point of view, if you accept that we are all energy, there is all, we're all vibrating effectively at a certain frequency, and that depends on our thoughts and our feelings.
mm,
And so what you were just saying about, I believe that if I give my gifts freely, then I will be rewarded, and it might not be from the same thing. What you're actually doing in that instant is, if you're open to receiving and that, you are in a high vibrational frequency. So you are going to attract more opportunities, more people, and therefore more wealth
mm,
in, because you're in that abundant, I mean, that's what people refer to as an abundance mindset, if you like. It's like you're in that frequency of I'm not needy with it. I'm not chasing after the money. Um, but what what you were saying is about a lot of those people who are undercharging is because, again, I'll come back to it. It's like they're not valuing themselves at all enough to, like, oh, I can't charge that amount. No one's going to pay that amount. Well, you know, people will pay that just because you might not be able to afford that with someone else, but that's your belief around it. And there's always people around there out there with money who can afford it, but you have to value it first, and you have to value yourself,
mm,
because if you're not valuing yourself, you're not in that vibrational frequency to attract those opportunities or the money in. And I do agree with you about charging a lot more. I mean, you can do. I think the thing is, as long as you're, whether you're charging, £100,
mm,
1,000, 10,000, 100,000, as long as you're giving more value to the person
mm.
who's exchanging their money, then it's a win-win, right?
Yeah,
Because that person is seeing that they're getting a lot more value than the money that they're willing to
exactly.
pay, and you're getting the money in
Yeah,
for your services. It's
It's a big part of the belief, your own belief system about
it
that.
is absolutely, and the thing is making sure that you are not, and this is one of the crippling things in the coaching industry is people undercharge because they are undervaluing their services. And I actually see it in the healing and the therapy industries even more than coaching, although they often go hand in hand. I mean, I get really annoyed with some trainings like therapy teaching schools that actually teach therapists that they can't charge more than like £50 or £100 an hour. Straight away, they're saying that it's not worth a lot.
Mm.
They're telling them to charge by the hour rather than by the value that they're delivering. And then they come out and then they think, "Oh, I've spent thousands on all this training and now I can only earn this amount of money with it." That's a bit of a bugbear of mine. But coming back to this whole charging thing, it's like if you undervalue your own services and therefore you undercharge, once you get into that delivery phase, it can bring up resentment because you're giving so much and you don't feel you're getting some enough back in return. So there's an imbalance there. And as soon as you're getting into that resentment and that you're bringing your vibration down, which, again, going out into the universe, that's not an abundant mindset. So therefore, you
Mm.
know, it gets into a spiral and a spiral down. So it's really important that you're not just saying like what you just said, yeah, I'm willing to give my stuff for free, but you are truly
Mm.
willing to give it for free or at a low price, and you really are happy to do that, but being truly open to receiving elsewhere and not being afraid of charging. I never like to say charging what you're worth, but charging what your services
Yeah.
are worth, to someone else who
Mm.
can afford it, and being open to both of those, because in both of those you are coming from that wealthy, abundant,
Yeah.
like vibrational frequency, if you
Yeah.
like, if that makes
And
sense.
there is a bit of a, also, I think, where I've had a scenario, is it, where someone come to me, for example, I would say, no, someone come to me, for example, that was in a very dire strait, if you like, was going to, been in a lot of places. We had, again, a little bit, like me and you, we come back to working with himself, and that they worked with me a long time ago. And I said, it's just going to call, it's just put you in the right way, and it's
Mm,
interesting, said to me, like, well, during that call about where, how do I pay, how we've got to pay, and I said,
mm,
don't worry about that. We'll sort that out later. So it's not a
yeah,
problem. And at the same time, in the same week, I had someone who approached me about working with them that I, was said, right, it's going to cost, £1,000 a month as my one-to-one
mm,
say. And, but I think the interesting things that, and I always like to look on reflection on myself and how then I can relate that to other people and help
mm,
the individual people. There was no, there was no difference in my being, the value I
no,
give, how I
yeah,
show up,
absolutely,
the two. And I think that's the way that I can then value
absolutely, that,
myself and align it, because, um and it was the case, that person, and also the person I said it's going to be this, but the rewards were and have been a lot higher and a lot
yeah,
quicker because of where they are. So it's, understanding that situation.
yeah,
But there's always it's interesting that I was having a conversation with someone afterwards, and it's sort of where we just a friend who would just chat about stuff, and interested about we talking about the week, and I was, it was when that happens. I talked about that scenario, and they said, oh, that's a lot of money to charge, isn't it? Whatever, and also I said to them they had to pay 6 months up front, so it wasn't just £1,000 money. It's like,
yeah,
so I'm actually asked someone to pay £6,000 that um who, and we didn't know each other that well,
mm,
so the he said they would, oh, well, charge us. But, he was a bit, we had that conversation about, oh, I don't know if I could charge someone that much,
yeah,
And I said, because I do a lot of work on the subconscious now and stuff like that,
yeah,
but I did say, there's always first time that someone's going to pay, isn't it? I could have asked him for 100 grand,
yeah,
but because there's always, It's always going to be a first time, isn't there?
Yeah.
And just because I haven't got, someone to say you haven't got that, if you like that, your just subconscious saying to you, oh, you can't charge me. You've never charged that before.
Mm.
But actually, I went into it where I have charged for that, or I have been paid by contracts, I've been
Yeah.
paid a lot more than that
Yeah.
to do projects and all that in the past. And people don't see that in their corporate days, what you're paid
Yeah,
to
exactly.
do a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
You say like therapists and like everything, like, I can't charge more than £50 an hour, but they were getting paid a lot more when they were in a working.
Yeah. Well,
But
that comes back to that worthiness again, because all of a sudden, rather than do it like it's that whole thing about working hard,
mm,
I'm getting my paycheck, and it's
yeah,
like, and I'm doing this job, whether or not I like it or, I may love it or I may hate it, but I'm doing this job. Whereas now, even if you've trained in something, it's almost like you're selling yourself. And
mm,
because it's like your knowledge, your expertise, the way you're doing it, even if you've trained and learned a certain system or whatever, but it's yourself. So it comes back to that, do I believe in myself enough? I mean, one of the exercises I get my clients to do is this I am awesome exercise, where I get them to really list out all the things that they're good at,
mm,
and do that every day for at least 2 weeks, if not longer, just to start reminding themselves of all the things that they are actually good at, because we spend so much time, we listen to our inner critic all the time of
mm,
like all these things that have gone wrong, but we're not willing to like really actually appreciate ourselves and respect ourselves enough, and that impacts it a lot. um but pricing is a a whole like huge topic really, because um there is that level of worthiness and being open to receive. Like you say, every time we expand, whether that's charging more or anything else we do for the first time, we do it with intrepidation. There is that like that bit of fear that comes up, and I'm very much about, you should be expanding your comfort zone a bit gradually, a little bit here and a little bit there.
yeah,
When people go, oh, go out and charge 100 grand for this program or whatever, and you've never charged more than, I don't know, 3,000 before, it's like, oh my God, you again, it comes back to putting your body, you are literally putting your nervous system into that fight or flight mode. And you're not going to be able to do anything then, because it's almost your nervous system is shutting down to
yeah.
focus on like
I
just
mean,
one
the only
thing.
way the only way you can do that is why it annoys me when you see that and then talk about, it's the things, but because the only way that works is okay, yeah. So instead of now charging £200 from a program, I'm going to charge
Hmm.
£5,000. But then having the self-awareness to understand, well, what's that brought up for you now? What
Yeah,
if then work on those
work on that. Yeah,
like
yeah,
that rather than
yeah,
just, oh my God, next one I'm going to try and say it, because then you're just,
yeah,
it almost it brings people into a
yeah,
thing about, oh, I'm bad coach because I can't sell my
yeah,
in
yeah. And
like
I
that.
think, yeah, and it's like, I'll come back to the fact that money flows to where there is value.
Mm,
If you can see the value
mm,
of what you're putting into whatever you're doing, and you can communicate that to someone else effectively, and they see more benefit to them in it than what that money is. It's like, I'll give an example of like, let's say you've got a watch, right? Now, someone could come along and say, oh, I really like that watch. I'll give you, I don't know, I'll give you £10 for it. And you go, oh no, that cost me £50. I'm not going to part with that. So then they're not you're not going to part with your watch because you think it's worth more than that amount of money. Whereas if someone come along and said, right, I'll give you £10 for that watch, and you went, oh yeah, I bought it down the market for a fiver, well, I could go get two more, for that. I'll take it, you know. Then someone else could come along and say, oh, actually, I'll give you £100 for that watch, but it might be an heirloom. And
Mm.
you go like, well, actually, to me, that's priceless. I'm not, no amount of money. Am I going to give this watch away? It was, my father's or grandfather's or whatever, and it's like, it's got a special meaning to me. So
I've
the
got a golf
value,
club like that.
right. Well, there
It's
you go.
because it's behind me actually because it's in itself it's probably
Yeah.
worth a tenner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I'm just trying to think. It's 20. How old's Cameron? 24. So it's probably 24 years old. It's around when
Mm,
Cameron was born that I bought it. It's probably worth a tenner if that, right?
yeah.
It's a typical only falls and thing, but it's had 16 new handles, and just
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it's the original head and stuff like that. But the and shaft, Now, it's weird, but there is there's no amount of money that someone can offer me for that club that's gonna take it
Yeah.
out of my bag because it's when I'm having a bad day on the golf course, it's my go-to club, right? So
Yeah.
there's a real I've got a real probably unhealthy, some people might say, but I've got a real emotional attachment to that club.
Yeah.
So much so that if I'm
Mm,
having a bad day with my driver and all that, I know that I can go to my old
yeah.
faithful and and all will be right in the world again, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's got so much emotional thing there that there's not actually there's not even if someone said to me, I'll give you 50 grand for that club, Scott,
Mm,
I would be I don't I no.
yeah. Yeah, and that's it. And that's what I'm saying about that whole thing about value. And this comes back to like knowing your values and what's important to you in the first place, because it's the value isn't like really tangible often. It's like,
Yeah,
what does
it's
it
intangible.
mean to the other person?
Yeah.
And to one person, it's like your services, someone who's struggling to make their first 10 grand, your services are going to be like really valuable. But someone who's already making seven figures in their business, they're going to go, well, maybe you can help.
Mm. Mm.
And so, value is reflecting in the other person as well. So that's why I say that watch example is quite good.
Yeah.
And that's why pricing is always so difficult, because it's never about, what's everyone else charging. It
Mm.
doesn't matter. It's like, what's the person in front of you? How important is it to them?
Mm.
Like, and I mean, that's the other thing that I mean annoys me a little bit with this whole thing about I know we're probably digressing a bit here, but it's like this whole thing about, you've got to pay a lot to be invested
Mm.
in someone else's program or whatever. And it's like, yes, to a certain extent, you don't want it to be so cheap that they don't bother,
Mm.
it's meaningless to them. It needs to be worthwhile to them. But sometimes, and I've experienced this myself, it's like you can invest a high level of money only to find out that it's not what you expect and maybe not worth the money. And then actually it can have the opposite effect of like putting you into a bit of a wheel spin, because it's suddenly like, oh my God, I've put all this money into this and now I'm not getting out, what I thought. And, so it's not just about charging high prices for the sake of charging high prices to get people invested in what they're doing.
It's
So
definitely more of I think a desire of that person to get to
mm,
that goal
mm.
and the circumstances around that.
Yeah, and that's why you're saying it's like,
Yeah.
you can be just as happy working with someone for free or next to nothing if that's really important to them, because they are invested. It
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be a fun
Yeah.
investment invested
Yeah.
in
And it's
that.
just
So
really difficult because I know people that do that
but like
other coaches do pro bono and stuff like that, and other coaches, it's interesting when you sort of I used to do this more when I used to do sort of live events, if you like, years ago, like how many
mm,
coach and actually I was at one where there was probably 2,000 coaches or whatever, going back probably 15 years, probably near to when I first started. So about 14, 15 years ago. And the all coaches and the person in front of them said, hands up if you got a coach, literally everyone in the room
mm,
put their hand up. And he said, now keep your hand up if you actually pay money for that coach and it's not just
mm,
with a friendly coach or you just
yeah.
or your pub or whatever. And that was interesting because I get my hand up, but I was thinking, and the amount of hands that went
It went
down,
down.
it was really scared. Love it. It was a big thing about, oh, that's interesting. And he
Mm,
was very blunt, actually, the bloke. I won't say he was just go, but he was very blunt and goes, if you're, because he was kind of
mm.
high, some people might
Yeah,
not
yeah,
high and he said, well, if you're not prepared to pay, then
yeah.
how do you expect people to pay for you and whatever? But for me, it definitely clicked about a different psychological thing in there, where,
Yeah.
but it's also about the type. So every mentor, I mean, that I sign up for, I guarantee the first conversation we have, they say you should be charging more money.
Mm.
Right? And I get, but if I was no, but it is a direct link to the people that I want to be
Want to
working
work with.
with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
So in your case, it is about stage of business, and
but
we
it's also,
know,
we talk about living with life abundance. So one
yeah,
makes me feel like
so,
I'm living a life abundance is a call from a client that goes, or leaves a voicemail on the WhatsApp for me and says,
mm,
just got my first client or just got, finally
yeah,
got a client. And, that, because I always say that when you get that feeling, or as a coach, if you work with someone and they say,
mm,
and one of their clients rings about and says, oh, this is amazing. I've just had this final, breakthrough, or, I've got
mm,
sorted out my relationship, whatever it is, or I've got I think I found the perfect person of their relationship coach or whatever.
yeah,
That moment, that feeling you have at that moment, which really comes from I suppose your solar plexus in the chakra, your sort of kind of your
mm,
third chakra, is that moment. There's nothing about money or wealth
no,
into
no,
that. It's a pure abundance moment,
yeah,
and I've understood that that's the bit that I cherish more. That it allows me to feel more abundant
yeah,
because
because
of I'm not conscious now about I don't need, I've had the cars. I don't need the
yeah,
cars. I don't need all the fancy
yeah,
stuff because
and it, this is what I come back to. It's about, a life of abundance,
mm,
a rich life. Um, and so for you, in that moment, that was being on purpose. That was having that
yeah,
sense of meaning and fulfillment.
mm,
And when we have that, and for some people, they don't need a lot of money in their life to be totally fulfilled and that.
mm,
But at the same time, it's not about like money is divorced from that. Like I say, there's that opposite end of like, oh,
yeah.
money's not spiritual. To live a purposeful, meaningful life, I disown money. Well, no, money's a tool. Money's a
Yeah.
tool,
I
and
mean,
it's there
that's
to
where having a
support you.
wage comes into it for people, too, because
Yeah,
you're at that point where if you can, even without doing any inner work, that if you got money and that you can cover your bills and some money to spend on yourself, for example,
mm,
you'll naturally start falling into an abundant mode
yeah,
more than
yeah.
you would a survival mode.
Mode, yeah, yeah.
So there
And
is a bit of
and when you are in that like survival mode, you do need to think about how do I manage money? What are my priorities? There is an element of like having to manage all of that and recognize it in order to get to that next level. But yeah, once you're getting into that level of, well, I'm getting money in for using my talents or skills in whatever way, then you know and you start seeing that you come out of that, oh, like that really fearful state, so you can relax again your nervous system, and then you can become more creative, and then you can start looking at what's the next level. um and like you said, the more you can use your talents and your gifts, the more, again, fulfilled you'll be, happier, whether it's in a job, in a business, whatever. It's like, because like I say, the money will always flow where there's value. So as long as you're offering value to someone else, you know, a road sweeper
mm,
is still of value to
mm,
someone else. Now, it might not be recognized and paid a lot of money in our system, and people have, different views about that. But the thing is, you can always start somewhere and then, move on.
mm.
But, don't disown money, because we all need money in this world, whether
And
you like it or not. Money is that
it's like
currency
everything,
that
isn't it?
we,
It's a bit I always kind of talk about a little bit recently around um that that everything goes where it's attracted to where it's loved, right?
Mm,
So, which is why
that's
it's why bad people have, and I've got a bit of content I want to do about this video, but there's bad people that have a lot of money
yeah.
because they actually love money. So money goes to where it's loved. And it's a bit like if you're
Well,
in a relationship, you go to where you are loved, aren't you? You know.
yeah, absolutely. And this is what this is why I say, money always flows to where there's value. If money had a conscience, we wouldn't have wealthy, warlords or drug barons and, all of this, dictators and that. But yes, they love money, they appreciate money, but also, again, it might not be morally right, but a drug dealer is providing value to someone.
Mm,
Like I say, morally that's wrong, but someone needs that and they're willing to pay the money for it,
mm,
rightly or wrongly, but that, it's fulfilling that need. So yeah, and this is why, yeah, think about a relationship. I mean, I do, one of the exercises I do with my clients is like, start thinking about money as a friend. Would you treat money the way you would your best friend?
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when you start think about it like that, rather than it's just like this awful thing, and um, it's your belief system that you're putting across onto it. So let's change that belief. Let's change how you feel about it,
yeah,
um, and attract. Be
yeah.
nice with it. Treat it
I
well.
remember changing my own mindset around it, around the beliefs around when I was started working on my, if you like, wasn't receive, I was
Mhm.
not receiving it because I thought money was, to a
Yeah,
certain level, I won't go higher because I thought it made me into a bad person. There's a point working through it where I'd be every bit of money that come into my account, where it come from, and payments
yeah,
and stuff like that is it's taking a second of gratitude to be, so
yeah,
I'm,
absolutely.
just to say, like, so
And
be,
and
but you pay
also,
me, and I've gone like, and I've just taken the time, gone like, oh, thank you, Karen, for the money, and
yeah,
your
yeah,
mind, and it had
yeah.
to do that for a long
Absolutely.
time.
And I think being, again, we know gratitude is a high frequency, but it's also, I think one of the things when it comes to that is also seeing when money goes out,
Mm,
being grateful for the money going out, because again, it's an exchange of value.
mm,
So like what are you getting in in return for spending that money? Each time you pay your rent or your mortgage, be grateful for the fact that you've got a roof over your head.
mm.
You know, when you buy groceries, be thankful that you're putting food on the
Mm.
table, and it's like,
But it's
if we
also, I mean, it's like the other side of that, isn't it? It's like actually being thankful that you paying that money. Say you might think, well, Tesco's is a big corporation, got a lot of
yeah,
money, but you doing your shopping in Tesco's is
em-
allowing them to employ people, which is
people, exactly,
keeping them
yeah.
in a job, and so that there's a ripple effect of it all, isn't
Yeah,
it? So,
yeah, yeah. I have a little money sort of mantra that I share with people, and it's it kind of goes through all of that to start like really start thinking about money. Money wants to flow. If you think of it like that, money wants to flow all the time. It doesn't want to stay still. Um, I was amazed recently, and again, it's probably because of my background in financial services, but like someone was saying, "Oh, well, if you put your money in the bank in savings, did you know like the bank hasn't got it?" Like they and I go like, "Well, yeah, of course, because they put it to work. They put it out again. They'll lend it to someone who needs like a mortgage or something, and it's like money will flow always. It's like when we stop trusting in that, that's when financial systems break down and whatever, but just like any other system. But it's like, but the more we can appreciate that money will come to us, but when it leaves us, we're getting something in return, and then it's benefiting someone else. It's
mm,
flowing on to that next person.
mm.
It can be quite magical when you start thinking about it like
Can
that.
be,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting to, so where um because we could talk for hours, so not as big as you
Yeah.
said, but the um abundance mindset in action then. So people
Mm,
sort of kind of put in abundance, people particularly that have, listened, they've got this far listening and
mm,
got the conversation on that, but then like, oh, thing. So how can I suppose cultivating a mindset of abundance
Hmm.
impact decision making then in terms of your own personal growth, your own relationships?
Hmm. An interesting one. I think, kind of comes back to what we were just saying, really, is like the more you can uh, start thinking of money, um, the benefit, and be grateful of money everywhere, you'll start seeing where it touches your
Mm,
life in so many ways. And when you can be like positive about that, I think it does really shift your not only your outlook, but then how you show up and how you behave.
mm.
And
There
again,
is a
not
link,
just
isn't there?
around
Kind of
money.
a little bit chicken and egg, but
Yeah,
the more your mindset is of abundance in
mm,
everything, the more
yeah,
attract. Funny enough, if it's money that you want, for example, then you will
yeah,
attract more money because you're
yeah,
getting more abundant. I suppose
yeah.
that
And I think
yeah,
also to when we think about money, you know, um, an abundance to be living in an abundant state is to attract money, but also opportunities. So it's about people and opportunities. But in order to fully receive those opportunities, then sometimes we have to spend that money, like we would in someone else's program or offers or whatever. So it's like again, it's understanding that being
I think it's
appreciative.
actually one of the things. Sorry, the thing, but when the a good sign that you are kind of attracted, you can attract money as well. It's when you're happy spending it actually when you need
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because you spend it with a need of well, I know I can go and get, I can go and
Yeah.
get or what
Actually, that
that
was
money.
something I was going to say to you earlier, and it's popped out of my mind again. But you know, people, this used to be a bit of a bugbear of mine. Was like entrepreneurs would say, because I had a successful career and I enjoyed my career. The fact that I switched, right, but I didn't hate my job or anything. So, and I'm very grateful for what it brought me. Um, and I think this whole thing about entrepreneurs value freedom, whereas, employees just want safety and security. Well, actually, money brings you both.
Mm,
Because if you think about it, if when you've got enough money, you have an abundance, you have choice.
mm,
You have the choice to do the things that you want to do, experience what you want to experience, buy what you want to buy. And that also gives you security because when you've got money, or a certain level
mm,
behind you, you know that you can maybe take a little risk or something, or you again, depending on what level of wealth you've got. But it's like, so it does bring you that whole feeling of safety and security, but it also brings you freedom of
mm,
choice. And I think sometimes that people don't really see that they're seeing one side of that, but actually it brings you both. So
mm.
be grateful for money, be grateful for abundance, see it in
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
different light.
Yeah. So what actually going on now, we're probably a good one to end on there. So
Yeah.
what can sort of daily practices or habits can help someone then like consistently foster abundance mindset? So not just money, but abundance mindset.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying earlier that I have a framework and I think there are five key elements to what I call soul aligned wealth. But, the first one is recognizing that wealth lies within. So, we have innate wealth, that's our gifts. And being able to recognize that every day. So, you know, if you are not appreciating yourself,
Mm,
um, then do some just write, get out a bit of paper and write out all the things you've achieved, all the things you're good at, all the skills you've learned, or, everything, because you have so much value there, so just appreciate yourself for that first of all. And that could be a daily thing to do, to appreciate that innate wealth. The second element I call sovereign wealth, which is all about your identity and your self-concept and how you see yourself. Do you see yourself as an abundant person? So again, this comes a lot into that mindset of like, you know, who, how will you behave? Like, let's just say you suddenly got £1 million, dollars, whatever, and it's like, how would you behave about that? What does that look like? Does that make you a greedy, horrible person? Or really, how would you show up differently, to have that? So really think about how, like, who you're being and who would you be. Would it really change you that much? Or even if it did, is it changing you negatively or is it changing you positively? So really think about your identity and your self-concept in relation to wealth and abundance. Like, what are you saying to yourself? What's that talk going on inside your head? Then the third one is financial wealth, which is about your relationship with money, which we've talked about a lot. So just think about, yeah, when you think about spending something, you know, are you grateful for that as when the money comes in, or are you like constantly worrying about money? Are you talking about it in a bad light? Think about what you're thinking and saying about money and
Mm.
try, if you've got a journal, just reflect on all of that. And then the fourth one is energetic wealth, which is about being in flow. And in a business context, that's being in flow in your business, but it can be an energetic flow. Now I work a lot more with energy. It's like,
Mm.
we can be stuck in our energy, or we can have a reversal. We want to be in flow. So things are easy for us. And that's, again, it's about doing the work to clear any energetic blocks. And then the fifth one is the spiritual wealth, which is about being connected into whatever. And it's like, have a daily practice that, and I'm not saying meditate or anything, it depends what you do. It might just be journaling, just a moment of reflection. It might be walking out in nature and just looking around and saying, like, wow, how abundant this world is that we live in, rather than watching the news every night and, what all the negative stuff that we get told. So, it'll be different for everyone, but there are, again, abundance, wealth is more than just money. It is about appreciating everything you've got in life.
Yeah, I feel agree with that. It's each of these made me think of when you were saying about your first pillar, the I can't remember the guy who does where it come from. Um but it's interesting how it works, things that when you're particularly when I always feel like when coaches first come to me,
Mm,
there's there is a lot of negativity around it because they can't get clients and not get money, blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah,
Come to I'm not saying they come to me because they can't get clients and it's the confidence is all the intangible outcomes of having
yeah,
got confidence, like etc. Not making an impact in life because they're not getting anyone and
yeah.
feeling like they're a bad coach because they can't get clients, which are not related
Mm,
podcasts altogether probably. But the but there's that big thing of negativity and something that I started. I remember I got it from a couple of years ago, and then I tried it, and then I've asked people to do it, and they come back and said, "Oh, it's amazing." Whatever. And it's the real there's a real level of when you're not living abundant. If you people and you probably got this when clients come to you that there's you sense that they just don't love themselves, isn't there? There's a
yeah,
real
yeah.
beating themselves up. That's a
Mm,
the trick of the which is that genuinely first thing in the mirror in the morning rather you do it when you're just about to go and brush your teeth and
yeah,
it, you stand up opposite a
yeah,
mirror and you look at yourself in the eyes. You've got glasses up, you take your
yeah,
glass only about
yeah,
this sort of distance away from the mirror.
yeah.
Look yourself in the eyes and say, "I love
Love
you"
you.
10
Yeah,
times. And the
yeah,
first time you do it, it is so uncomfortable.
yeah,
But you gotta say you stick to like just that eye contact with just yourself
yeah.
and staying through it that times. And I a lot of people when the first time I said like how did it go? They go, I said, did you cry? Yeah, but they go, yes, I did. I was really emotional.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
And you'll be
it's just
amazed how many
yeah,
people cannot do that.
yeah.
Absolutely cannot
And I
do it.
always
And
think
that's
because
that's
I'm like
why
you,
I
I'm
was,
trying to, I've talked about it in another thing. and now I'm really into the spiritual stuff and that expand.
Yeah.
And it's funny even talking about doing tonight. I'm doing a Buddhism's thing actually.
Right. Yeah.
Which is, but for me, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever, that was, oh my God, that was so woo-woo. That was,
Yeah.
there's
Me
no way
too.
that is
Yeah.
ridiculous because
Yeah.
getting brought up with a generation of Star Wars, Star Trek,
Yeah. Yeah.
space 1999. So, um, and I like, I think a little bit like you where, we've talked about this, I think before personally, it's that I've separated spiritual with God.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so the things it's interesting, the things around frequencies and stuff like the energy. Actually, I can more understand that than because there is a science behind that.
Yeah.
You can prove it because you can change the direction of water for out of tap with
Yeah.
frequency.
Yeah.
You can do even with the frequency of bells and stuff, which
Yeah.
is
Sound. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All of that.
that
Yeah.
conspiracy. But the reason why they're all broken is because of the the hierarchy. But anyway, but but that but it's interesting that that initial thing like self-worth is like you talked about
Mm.
stuff like that and how they can change that quickly uh
Mm.
with just little things like you talked about like the things is really
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's because I think when you put it all onto money,
mm,
again, it's like anything. As soon as you start putting anything out outside of you, it's almost like you're giving away your power to
mm,
it, to a person, to money, to whatever. And it's like, we have the power within us. We
mm,
all do. We forget it at times, and I still do. It's like, okay, we all go through these things, but it's like, you know, when you can come back to that place of knowing that you are here for a reason. And
mm,
like I say, I will still you know, my underlying philosophy is you are here to share your gifts with the world because your gifts, you are unique. There will never be anyone like you. And you are unique, and your experiences and your skills and your personality and character and all the rest of it. That's what I mean by gifts. And when you share your gifts with the world, surely from a spiritual perspective, whether you're religious or not, isn't that what we're meant to do? And why wouldn't you be rewarded for that? Like,
mm,
to me, it's just like it wouldn't make any sense. What evil power would it be if we weren't meant to be rewarded for
mm.
that? So first learn to love yourself, even like yourself, because some people don't, and see the value in yourself. And like I say, that's why I say wealth and worthiness go hand in hand, because until you see the worth and the value within, like that money and people and opportunities is not going to flow to you. So yeah, it all starts with you.
And that, Karen, is a
Mm.
beautiful place to end.
Right. Yes, I think so.
Well
We've
done,
talked a lot.
I really appreciate again, really, I mean, how much care I've got for you and love I've got for you, and I'm really
Uh,
thankful you've come on here and shared as much as you have.
thank you. Thank you.
Fascinating conversation, really fascinating.
Mm.
We'll put your details in the so where people watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, your details will be in the description below. So please go and connect with Karen and reach out to Karen if you really feel like, oh, that's just the person I need to talk to because she is fantastic at what she does, and a
Thank
wonderful
you.
human being behind it all as well. So that's the main thing.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. We could have got dissected into a lot of areas, and but a wonderful conversation. Um, and no doubt people listen to this, it will help them live a life of abundance, which is the main thing. The more people
Yeah,
that do that, the
absolutely.
better the world will be. So
Mm.
thank you, Karen, for sharing as much as you have.
Thank you.